Behind me is the skyline of downtown Montreal. I am on top of Mont Royal right now, which is a mountain that is smack in the middle of the city. And the view from here is absolutely undefeated, even though there are a lot of tourists around. But it's not just this view that makes the city so awesome. Join me as I show you why this is the greatest city in Canada. Of course, we got to get down from this mountain first. Thanks to the amazing power of editing, I made it down here in just a few seconds. Montreal is a city that's in the province of Quebec. In Canada, we don't have states, we have provinces. And Quebec is the only province in Canada where French is the predominant language and not English. In the 1700s, when the European colonists were first starting to come to North America, the French came here because they realized there is an abundance of beavers in this area. So they came here for the fur trade, and that ended up being a booming business. They decided to name a little fort here. They called it Fort Royal. That ended up becoming the modern day city of Montreal. And the French isn't just rampant in the language, it's the culture, it's the architecture. When you look around the buildings, you get French architecture vibes everywhere you go. This is a building from McGill University. I gotta make my way a little more into the city. And we are here at Rue Sainte-Catherine, or in English, St. Catherine Road. This is probably the most happening street in the entire city. Unfortunately, there's a lot of construction happening here on both sides right now. That is something you're gonna have to get used to no matter where you live in Canada. So Canada has 3 national symbols. You got the beaver, you got the maple leaf, and permanent construction. No matter what city you're in, there's gonna be construction everywhere. And Montreal is no exception. But on the bright side of things, walking in this city, in this area, is pretty easy to do. In terms of driving, I would not recommend driving in this city. You can see a lot of streets here are one way. It's gonna suck if you drive. You're gonna have constant headaches. You're gonna be pumping that horn non-stop, always, all the time, constantly. Montreal's got a very good subway. Damn it, that's loud. This city's got a pretty robust and decent subway service. No matter where you are in the city, you can pretty much get from A to B using a subway, a combination of a subway and a bus. Unlike a lot of other subways in a lot of other cities, the train in Montreal runs on rubber wheels. And you'll see when it pulls up. I am now off the subway, and it is a very good way to get around, like I was saying earlier. Unless you drive, you're probably not going to have the biggest problem with construction happening all the time. But if you do drive, it's going to drive you mad because roads always get closed down. It's just a very, very big annoyance that just has to happen in every city in Canada, and Montreal is no exception. Now that we got that part out of the way, let's get into some of the better parts. And I'm exiting out onto a place called Place des Arts, and right away you can hear it. There's always something happening here. Some kind of festival, some kind of event going on. Or multiple of them. What's going on here today?
What I like about rap battle going on right now.
Rap battle? Oh, here. Perfect. Thank you.
Comme yo, je suis pas dans tout ça, man. Je suis un diplômé du collège Rosemont, puis à 8 ans, je dois aller work. J'avais mis une paire de Converse. That's gangster.
Une technique, t'as besoin de cours de conduite. À Montréal, on est tanné que vous chantiez à propos de faire du trafic.
Well, based on that reaction, you can clearly see who won and who lost. It's actually a great segue into the next part of this video, which is, do you have to know French to live in Montreal? And the answer is yes and no. If you work from home, if you have a job, where you don't need to be interacting with people here on a daily basis. You don't need to know French. Most people here, actually pretty much everybody here, does speak English. If you know only English, you're gonna be just fine. With that being said, if you work here somewhere, you have to know French and English. You have to know both languages. If you want to work in any kind of retail store, any kind of office, if you want to work in a restaurant, no matter where that is, you have to know both languages.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Oh, whoa! 5-1 for Team White.
During summertime, pretty much every single weekend, there's some kind of festival or festivals happening here in all parts of the city. Of course, Place des Arts is the most famous in that regard, I would say, with the majority of festivals happening right here on this very ground and on these very steps. And this week, the festival happens to be the Festival International des Street Danse.
Please make some noise for Karma, Montreal's very own.
Yeah.
And Cal with the lyrical poetry. He's got a green shirt. I'm about to do this. It's Districts and Joke Fest. Sometimes I get so stressed and then I just feel so blessed. A couple bars just to start it off. I don't have a starter cap. I feel like a starter at rap. If you want to get on the mic, you know it's open. The prelims have been spoken. We just flow with it. Who wants to get on the mic next? We had to do the
Alright, that's pretty cool.
mic check.
But it's the opposite of my vibe. I'm kind of a heavy metal, rock kind of guy.
Everyone gon' freestyle 'cause we steady on the grind.
Did I mention these festivals are all free to enter? Which is awesome. All right, now that we're out of here, we're gonna migrate to the next place on the itinerary, which is the most historic part of Montreal. Except I'm not gonna get there by subway. I'm gonna take the most preferred way to get around this city. The mayor of this city has an addiction. Every morning she goes to work, she gets to the office, she does a big fat line of the finest powder the world's ever seen and says, we gotta build more bike lanes. Which explains why Montreal has the most bike lanes out of any city in North America. They're everywhere. Even though I'm not on a bike lane right now, technically I'm breaking the law by riding the bike on the sidewalk. I will see you at our next destination. J'arrivais à ma prochaine destination. I am now in Vieux-Port, or in English as they say, Old Port of Montreal, where you'll notice all the buildings around me have a little bit of an older feel to them. It's because this is the old Montreal that you see in a lot of the touristy Hollywood scenes or in any kind of movie. This is usually where they film Montreal. This is where the settlers first came and actually established a place to live. And now it's a giant tourist destination. There is a very old school, rustic type of vibe to the place we're in right now, which I'm a huge, huge fan of. Art is everywhere in this city. When you walk around, you see art installations everywhere and all kinds of art. From murals to sculptures to this weird mix in between the two. Some of them are even interactive, like this thing. You can change the entire thing around. You can change it to your heart's content. And this is the final form. A man named Robert Baldwin, who I'm assuming was one sick mofo. I mean, you must be a sick mofo to have something like that built after you. An awesome guy. And now I guess is a perfect segue to talk about the safety of this city and how safe it really is. This is one of the safest cities I've ever been to, 100%. It is a very normal sight to see people of all age groups walking by themselves at any time of the day and be completely safe. Because the police has a really good presence in this city. There's also a very good emphasis on respect in this city. People, for the most part, respect each other here. They don't treat each other like bullshit. That is one big ship. I don't know why they call it Old Port. It's not like there's like a new port anywhere. This is the only port here. We got a bit of a railroad line here. A part of me just wants to like walk on that part right there and go exploring. But I think they might end up sounding some sirens if I do that. So we're gonna avoid that for now. Another big reason for why this is the greatest city in Canada is the affordability. Realistically speaking, Canada has 3 big cities that you can actually live in. The rest aren't really big cities. You have Vancouver, you have Toronto, and you have Montreal. Out of those 3, Montreal is the only one that you can actually get a 1-bedroom apartment in and still afford to do other stuff too. In Toronto and Vancouver, you get a 1-bedroom apartment, you're paying $2,700 to $2,800 a month for a 200 to 300 square foot apartment. A little shoebox, a little tiny nothing size shoebox. You come to Montreal, you pay $1,200 and you can actually get a decent 400 to 500 square foot apartment. I think also a big key difference is I was saying earlier, there's a big cultural difference in Montreal versus the other Canadian cities. It's the people here actually know how to enjoy their life. They don't just hustle and bustle and work 24/7 just so they can afford a better place to live. And another part of Montreal we can't show you right now because it's not nighttime is the nightlife of this city. Montreal is the Vegas of Canada. You have so many casinos here. You have all kinds of clubs, all kinds of bars. Going out here is also an experience, unlike in Toronto, where the nightlife is just severely mediocre. Everything closes so early. Here, places stay open till 3 a.m. Well, a little bit of a spontaneous action there. As I was saying, places stay open till 3 a.m. here. He's got it, he's got it. Okay, he's gonna get it. Well, that's a good place to end it on. Oh! That's the better one to end it on, actually, right there. That's the best to end it on. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this little mini tour of Montreal. I'll see you next time.